Hey guys, this is Tauna, and today we're going to go through everything revealed today for Final Fantasy. So there's some absolutely huge reveals today. I'm not going to go, too slowly because we need to get through a lot. There are so many new cards, there's new mechanics. This is summarizing a 2 hour long stream for you guys, and it was started at 2 a.m. for me. So, I'm up here getting this ready for you guys. The release date is going to be June 6th for the pre-release, and honestly, the set looks absolutely amazing. There wasn't too much for Commander specifically, but from the main set, that stuff will potentially be used in Commander anyway. So make sure that if you do like this content, that you subscribe and stuff. This is instant speed breaking news. This just finished, right? Like 4 a.m. my time. This stream's just finished, and I'm summarizing this here for you guys, and I got the video ready. So let's go through the new mechanics. First up, we've got Job Select. So this is similar to like the Formiridan kind of mechanics or the Living Weapon ones, where when it enters, you're going to create a 1/1 colorless hero creature token, and then this is going to attach to it. These is meant to represent, selecting your job within Final Fantasy, like the first games and Final Fantasy 14 and stuff. And it specifically gives like a class to whatever the hero is. So say for example, like, shaman or mage or something. We'll see some in a second. We've got a new town land subtype as well. So similar to gates, apparently they're going to synergize well together, as well as there are some that actually have adventures. So these are lands that have adventures, which is very interesting. And then finally, we've got tiered here. You can see this one over here. They're like a modal spell that you select one mode of, and that's how much you pay for it. So, here, if you pay just red, it's going to deal 1 damage to each creature. If you pay, red and 5, then you can deal 3 damage to each creature. It's pretty kind of straightforward there. All right, so going through the cards, starting out with the ones from Final Fantasy 1. They actually went in order here. There's going to be some at the end that aren't in order because they were shown in like really snippets as they were like showing a trailer essentially, but generally we kind of go in order. So we've got White Mage's Staff and then the Black Mage's Rod. Both have that job select there. Both give like a stat boost and then an extra ability. So this one here, the White Mage's Staff, gives whenever this creature attacks, you gain 1 life, and it's a cleric. Pretty simple. And then the Black Mage's Rod here gives equipped creature gets +1/+0 and has whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. The Black Mages seem to be that kind of like, spell slinger, deal damage out to each opponent. There's a legendary later on for it that looks amazing, and I love it. It's really, really cool. So as I said, starting with Final Fantasy 1 and then kind of moving through, we've got Final Fantasy 2 here with Firion Wild Rose Warrior. So he has equipped creatures you control have haste, and then whenever a non-token equipment you control enters, create a token that's a copy of it, except it has this equipment's equip cost 2 less to activate, and then you sacrifice it. So it's like an easy way to get like, additional equipment out pretty easily. Like, whenever you cast an equipment, get a token copy of it that's easier to equip and stuff. Very interesting kind of ability. I'm gonna show mostly like all the arts that come with it too. So you've got like all the character arts. I don't know, I love these character arts. I know there's some people who are a bit down on them, but I think they're really cool. We've got Commune with Beavers here. You're going to pay green, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You can choose you may reveal an artifact, creature, or land from them and put that into your hand, and then the rest on the bottom of your library. Very straightforward, great, way to get an additional card drawer, essentially. It's kind of like, scry 3 and then draw 1 if it's and then we've got Guy Speaks Beaver as the flavor text here, which is just hilarious. Final Fantasy 3, moving on to, there's going to be the crystal. So there is 1 crystal for each color, and this is a cycle of like rare legendary artifacts. They're all going to reduce the cost of whatever color it is. So like this darkness crystal reduces the cost of your black spells, and then they've got other abilities to kind of go alongside them. This one here makes it so that if a non-token creature an opponent controls dies, you exile it and then you gain 2 life. That's actually a really cool ability. And then you can also put a card that's exiled onto the battlefield under your control. That's crazy. That's really, really cool. We've got Adventures In. So this is showing off the land, like the new land subtype, Towns. So this one is whenever this land enters, you gain 2 life. Just taps for colorless. I'm actually half surprised this doesn't come in tapped. It is just a common land though. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's pretty cool. I like that one. We've got Kane, Traitorous Dragoon here, moving on to Final Fantasy IV. He has Jump, so during your turn, Kane has Flying. And then whenever he deals combat damage to a player, that player is going to gain control of him. You get to then draw that many cards. So if he hits and you hit with just his plain old version, you're going to draw 2 cards. You're going to also create 2 treasure tokens and then lose that much life. I guess in Commander, this would be really interesting if you put like a goad thing onto it and then it just kind of passes around the table and you slowly kind of get to just kill people with commander damage and you don't even need to attack with your commander. Yeah, I think that's really cool. I really like that ability. We've got Gilgamesh, Master at Arms here, moving on to Final Fantasy V. He has, whenever he enters or attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library, choose any number of equipments and put them onto the battlefield, and then with those, you get to equip one of them onto a samurai you control. Obviously, you can equip it onto Gilgamesh or any other samurai that you control, which is really cool. Kind of synergizes as well with some of the older samurais. Like, I think there was some in Kamigawa, and then, a bit back further as well. We've got Bartz and Boko, which is really cool. So they have affinity for birds, so they're going to cost 1 less for each bird you control. And then whenever they enter, each other bird you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature and opponent control. So all your birds just suddenly go and attack and stuff. Notably, there is not very many green bird cards. However, the Chocobos are green, and there's going to be other kind of, Chocobos in the sets. So you'll be able to utilize them with him. Into Terra. So this is moving into Final Fantasy VI here. This is the main version of her. There's obviously going to be one within the actual set as within the commander deck as well. So this is the one where she turns into Esper Terra. So when she enters, you're going to mill 5 and then put 1 enchantment card from them mill back into your hand. You can then pay 4 red and green to exile her, then return her transformed under your control. You can only activate that as a sorcery. And then on the other side, she's going to create a token that's a copy of target non-legendary enchantment you control, and it gains haste. If it's a saga, you can put additional lore counters on it, and then you're going to sacrifice it at the beginning of your end step. Very, very cool. The other part down here where you're going to add each color, you're going to add 10 mana shared about all your different colors, and then exile her and then return her to the battlefield. So she flips back over into her other version. That's really cool. A really, really interesting ability. And then you've got the original art over here by Yoshitaka Amano as well. All right, and then we've got Kefka here, Kefka Court Mage. So this is obviously the main set version of him as well. One of the main set versions, because I think there's going to be multiple. He has, whenever he enters or attacks, each player discards a card. Then you're going to draw cards equal to the number of card types from among them. You can pay 8, and then each opponent will sacrifice a permanent of their choice, and then you transform him. When he transforms, he's going to gain a different ability, which is whenever an opponent loses life during your turn, you draw that many cards. Damage loses life or any kind of burn spells, you're going to get to draw a bunch of cards. This is really cool. And you've got, again, some amazing art here by Yoshitaka Amano. And then up here, the kind of character art for him too. We've got the Traveling Chocobo moving into Final Fantasy VII. So you can look at the top card of your library at any time. You can play lands or cast bird spells from the top of your library. If a land or bird you control entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that triggers an additional time. So you've got that additional landfall stuff, like extra landfall, as well as, getting to do extra birdfall stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Did the other dude actually have the bird subtype? Yeah, he does. Cool. All right. That's really cool. This one here also has different versions. These are from the from the collector packs, from what I can remember. They're like ink splash ones. And then you've got the special, wow, my brain's blanking out. Serialized 77 of this golden chocobo there. We've got Cloud Midgar Mercenary. Whenever he enters, search your library for an equipment, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. As long as Cloud is equipped, if an ability of Cloud or equipment attached to it triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. This is important because whenever some equipment will actually give your creatures abilities, so that's making sure that then they are able to trigger again. Yeah, that's basically it. Making sure those triggers can trigger again rather than just the equipments, because not every equipment has its ability attached to it. Sometimes it just gives it to the creature. We've got the Buster Sword that they didn't actually show. They showed that it costed 3, and that's it. We've got Sephiroth, Fabled Soldier, and oh boy, some of these arts are to die for. Oh, it's really cool. So he has, whenever he enters or attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, draw a card. Whenever another creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain a life. Then, if this is the 4th time this ability has resolved this turn, you can transform him. When he transforms, he has flying. And then when he transforms, he's also going to give you an emblem. So that is essentially a card that is going to sit off the game. So it's not going to get interacted with or anything. It's like a passive ability that you then have from now on, which is whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses a life and you gain a life. Then Sephiroth has, whenever you attack, you can sacrifice any number of creatures you control. If you do, draw that many cards. There is going to be so many cool decks coming out of Sephiroth. Stuff like, flood the board with a whole bunch of tokens, and then you sacrifice him when he attacks, and then boom, neg and draw a whole bunch of cards. It's really cool, and all these arts are just crazy cool. We've got Aerith Gainsborough. I do not know the story of Final Fantasy VII. I've not played it, so from what I know, this second part here is a spoiler, which assumedly means that, yeah. Whenever you gain life, put a counter onto her, and then whenever she dies, put counters onto each legendary you control, where X is the number of counters that are on her. We've got Tifa Lockhart here. 2 really cool arts. I actually really like this art. It's simple and straightforward, but it's just really cool. I love it. She has Trample, and then whenever land you control enters, you get to double her power until end of turn. So if you've managed to buff her up with, equipment or +1 counters or whatever, that can get really out of hand very quickly, especially in like a landfall-based deck. We've got Squall, Seed Mercenary, moving into Final Fantasy 8. So he has, whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains double strike. And then whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you're going to return target permanent card with mana values 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is going to be really interesting in the reanimation Final Fantasy 6 deck, I think it was, that's coming out. It's just a really cool card. And I don't know, the character arts are just really doing it for me. I just love them. They're really cool. We got Renoa Heartily here as well, who comes in, and then she's going to bring Angelo with her, create Angelo a legendary 1/1 green and white dog. And whenever she attacks, another target creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each creature you control. Really, really cool. She does have to buff up other creatures with it. She can't buff up herself, but yeah. Obviously, you've got Angelo there that you could just kind of buff up anyway. We got Ultimecia. I cannot pronounce that. Time Sorceress here. So she's the main villain from Final Fantasy VIII, from what I know. Whenever she enters or attacks, you're going to surveil 2. And then at the beginning of your end step, you can pay 8 mana. Yep. Exile 8 cards from your graveyard, and then you transform her. So keep in mind, she's an uncommon card, right? However, when she transforms, you get to take an additional turn after that. That's just, yeah, cool. We've got Vivi Ornatinia. Oh, I cannot pronounce that. From Final Fantasy 9 here. So they have pay 0. Add X mana in any combination of blue and red, where X is Vivi's power. You can only activate it during your turn and only once each turn. So the whole point here is to kind of buff up Vivi here, and then you're going to be able to use her as a mana dork. And then, yeah, also deal damage to each opponent then whenever you cast a non-creature spell. And then you've got that fire magic that I showed you earlier on. We've got Kuja Genome Sorcerer here as well. 2 different arts here. This is the one that I was talking about, making the Black Wizards. At the beginning of your end step, you're going to create a tapped 0/1 Black Wizard creature token, which is this one down here. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Then if you control 4 or more wizards, you get to transform him. And then transforms into Trance Kuja, which is if a wizard you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage. You kind of I don't know, building up a huge army of wizards over this side sounds really cool. And I just love the art too. And what the heck is this art? It's just, yeah, really, really cool. We've got Yuna, Hope of Spira here, moving into Final Fantasy X. During your turn, Yuna and enchantment creatures you control. So not just the sagas that are going to be coming, any enchantment creatures you control have Trample, Lifelink, and Ward 2. Really, really cool. Then at the beginning of your end step, you get to return one target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it, which means that whenever, it leaves the battlefield again, whenever it is put into the graveyard from your battlefield, you're going to exile it instead. So she is obviously meant to be built around like the new saga creatures. Like, for example, this summon Bahamut here has 1 and 2, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. Great removal. We've got draw 2 cards there as the Saga 3. And then the last one here is this creature deals damage equal to the total mana value of other permanents you control to each opponent. That's crazy, crazy great. All right. We've got Xanacard, Ancient Metropolis here as well from Final Fantasy X. This is what I was talking about, having the towns that have the adventures on them. So you can play this for its adventure, get to do its create the creature token, and then put +1s on it for each land you control. Then it goes over into exile, and then you can play it from exile as a land. It will still enter tapped, but still, it's a great way to be able to use it. We've got Absolute Virtue here moving into Final Fantasy XI. This is apparently like one of the huge end game bosses that absolutely destroyed people. This spell you can't be countered. It has flying, and then you have protection from each of your opponents. That means you cannot be targeted by your opponents. That's really, really cool. Or damaged, right? Or enchanted. It's really awesome. We've got Dragoon's Wyvern here. Flying, whenever it enters, create a 1/1 colorless hero creature token, doing like some side questy kind of stuff. Shantoto, a tactician magician. Bah. I do not like rhyming. I am bad at rhyming. We've seen her before. She has, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, she's going to get buffed up until end of turn. And then based off of the mana that you spent onto that spell. And then if it's 4 or greater, you get to draw a card. We've got Belthy and Fran here moving into Final Fantasy 12. Has reach. Vehicles you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance and reach. And then whenever it's a vehicle you crewed by Belthy and Fran this turn attacks, if it's the first combat phase, you get to pay 1 red and green and then get an additional combat phase there. And I also just love this art too. That's just really cool. We've got Lightning Army of 1 here. First strike, trample, lifelink. If she deals combat damage to a player until your next turn, if a source you control would deal damage to that player or a permanent they control, you get to deal double damage. And the fact that they've got first strike means that if lightning hits, deals a little bit of trample damage, then all of your other creatures hitting will then deal that double damage as well. Just a huge kind of debuff that's going to be onto them. We got Fang, Fearless, IC, and then Vanille, Cheerful, IC. I assume that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. From Final Fantasy 13 here. They have Meld, which is really interesting. So Fang is going to deal damage to yourself and draw a card whenever a card leaves your graveyard. And then Vanille here is whenever they enter, mill 2, return a permanent from your graveyard to your hand. Then you get to transform them during your first main phase and meld them together into Ragnarok Divine Deliverance. Again, this is an uncommon card, so there is potential you will run into this in your pre-release, and oh boy, I feel sorry for you if you do. A huge vigilance, menace, trample, reach, haste, and then when it dies, destroy target permanent and return target non-legendary permanent from your graveyard to the battlefield. Really cool. We've got Y'shtola Rule here moving into Final Fantasy 14. At the beginning of your end step, exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Then you get to take an additional end step. Really cool, really interesting. Summon Primal Odin here is really interesting as well. Technically, you can flicker the summons, right? Which is really cool as well. So this has destroy target creature and opponent controls. Then if it and then it gains whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. Just if you get hit by Odin, goodbye, you wiped. Yep, you're gone. And then if you do get down to 3, you're going to draw 2 cards, and then each player is going to lose 2 life as well. We've got Summoner's Grimoire. As I said before about the job select thing, some of it is in the Final Fantasy XIV stuff here, and job select is a part of that here with this card. And it's also got the Abraxas here as like the flavor text. That is the name of what this weapon is within Final Fantasy XIV. This one kind of gives like that elvish piper thing. Whenever it attacks, you're going to get a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. And then if it's an enchantment, so if you bring in a summon, because there's a Summoner's Grimoire, it's going to enter tapped and attacking. We've got Zodiac. Umbral God here. Indestructible. Whenever it enters, each player sacrifices half the non-god creatures they control, rounded down. And then whenever a player sacrifices another creature, you're going to put a +1/+1 counter onto it. Noctis, moving into Final Fantasy 15 here. Noctis, Prince of Lucis. He's got all the different weapons that he's able to use within the game in the background here. Lifelink, whenever you cast artifact spells from your graveyard. You may cast artifact spells from your graveyard by paying 3 life in addition to paying their cost. And then if you cast a spell this way, it gets a finality counter on it. So if it does get removed and goes back to the graveyard, it's gone forever. But with actual artifacts, it's not likely that happens. That's more for like artifact creatures, I guess, that's going to be more of an issue for. We've got Arden the Usurper here, and I love this art again. Demons you control have menace, lifelink, and haste. As soon as this came out, I'm like, messaged my best friend, Jackson. I'm like, hey, so just FYI, I did not expect there to be a new card for your Bellator deck here, but a Bellator deck, but here you go. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, you get to exile a creature card from a graveyard, from any graveyard. If you do exile a creature card this way, you get to create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 5/5 black demon. In Bellator decks, there are typically at least a few ways to give haste to things. You just get to swing in with it. It's really cool. Moving into Final Fantasy 16 here, the last one, we've got Jill, Shiva's Dominant here. So in that game, apparently the characters become like the summons and stuff. I don't play the game, so I'm not sure entirely, but that's basically what they kind of did here with like the different flip cards. So she has, whenever she enters, return another non-land permanent to its owner's hand, and then you can pay 3 and 2 blue, tap her, exile her, and then return her transformed onto the battlefield. And then on her other side, she gets to make it so people can't block and tap all the lands your opponents control, which is really cool. Again, I love this, love the borderless version, character version. And then we've got Clive, Ifrit's Dominant, and that's, oh man, look at this art down here. That is so cool, right? Like, that's just amazing. So yeah, I got completely distracted as to what he actually does because I keep getting distracted by this art. When he enters, you can discard your hand and then draw cards equal to your devotion of red. This is the only card that uses devotion within it, and it uses it so well. And then he can switch flip over into Ifrit, Warden of Inferno. When he enters, fight up to 1 target creature and then add 4 red. If he has 3 or more lore counters on him, exile him and return him to the battlefield face up. So he just flips back over. You'd want haste because otherwise he's not going to be able to attack after flipping back over, because this will happen at before your combat phase. But there's definitely plenty of ways to give haste in red. We've got A Realm Reborn. So these are the ones that were shown very, very briefly. A Realm Reborn, other permanents you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. We've got the Crystals Chosen. Create 4 1/1 colorless hero creature tokens, then put a +1 counter onto each creature you control. We've got Sid as well. So I don't know much about Final Fantasy again. From what I know, Sid shows up in every single game, or at least most of the games. There's like a million different versions of him from what I know. Either way, he has artifact creatures and heroes you control get +1/+1 for each artificer you control and each artificer card in your graveyard. A deck can have any number of cards named Sid Timeless Artificer. Keep in mind that the cycling here works into this because they will still get buffed based off the ones in the graveyard. And there is 15, sorry, 4, 8, 12, 13 different versions of him. Yeah, that is really cool. You can have any number of them in his deck. Choose whichever one you like the most to have as at the helm. Probably like the daddy pirate one up here for me, but maybe you guys disagree. I think that it's really cool. You could have a whole deck of Sid. Is just, yeah, that's a really interesting way to kind of make use of this, because yeah, as I've heard, he apparently shows up in every game, which is just really, really interesting. So moving into the couple commander cards that were shown, we saw Summon Esper Valagarmanda. So another saga creature here. You get to pay at the start, exile an instant or sorcery from each graveyard. And then secondly, you can add red for each lore counter on it. You can cast any number, cast an instant or sorcery exiled with the saga, and then mana of any color can be, mana of any type can be spent to cast it. A great kind of, way to be able to use those instants and sorceries that are in your graveyard, as well as potentially steal some great ones from opponents. We've got Emmett Selch at the 3rd seat, and look at how amazing he looks. That is just that's great art. So spells you cast from your graveyard cost 2 less to cast, and then whenever one or more opponents lose life, you can cast an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. If you do cast it that way, exile it, and you can only do it once each turn. But you can do that on multiple different turns, right? Like, it's just do this once each turn, not just on your own turn. So each opponent, you can do it. You could technically do it to cast a counterspell. Your counterspell's in your graveyard. You just need to make an opponent lose 1 life somehow, and then you can cast that counterspell again on an opponent's turn. It's really cool. All right, now into the bonus sheet. They showed some great bonus sheet cards. We've got Cloudsea Jin here as Nyx Bloom Ancient. Keep in mind that, again, these are a bonus sheet that is going to show up. You're going to see one of them in each of your play and collector boosters, apparently, which is just crazy because some of these are absolutely bonkers. We've got SRAM Senior Edificer as Firion Swordmaster here. We've got Zidane Tribal as Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer. This one's actually a crazy, crazy card to see reprinted here. Really great. Yeah, I've got Ragavan within my pirate deck, but I can think of a million different other decks that I would love to see him in. We've got the Imperial City of Arcades here as the Wall of Omen, which is just insanely great art too. These are all using concept art as well from the original games, which is just really interesting and really cool. And definitely this one's just really awesome. So let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys had a wonderful day, and goodbye.